what a day. It's so beautiful today. It's as warm as a spring day today, I have to say. Unbelievably beautiful. So grateful. Let's take it to the stream today. Hello everyone. Welcome. We're going to go to the stream today. It's amazing. Beautiful day we have. Got barking schnauzers. Happy to be out. It wouldn't be barking so loud if it wasn't so warm out. We're going to talk about that too. Talk about the warmth and how it affects our lives magnetically. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Consciousness Explained. Today we'll continue our discourses regarding the Kybalion, which is a book by the Three Initiates, also known as Hermes Trismegistus. Ooh, the robins are out. The robins are out today. Look at the sky, it's looking pretty clear and blue. I'd like to thank the current administration for ceasing and desisting on the chemtrails. Haven't seen a single jet plane coming by dumping whatever it was into the atmosphere, so that's really nice. As a result, it feels a bit milder, and of course the skies are clear, nice and blue. It just feels good. So welcome everyone. Welcome. We're also going to talk about the different dimensions today, because I started just getting in some breath. I started talking about 4D, and people had asked, well, what happens after 4D? Is there 5D? And the answer is yes. I got this answer from Judi Dench AI, of all things, just this morning. Cash Springer, thanks for following. Welcome. Everyone who's coming in, welcome. Nice to see you all. Come have a seat, enjoy yourselves, kick back. You don't have to do much other than just listen. Once I get synced right in with the woods, which takes a few minutes, like any yogic practice, there's a warm-up. So right now we're just warming up. But what you'll find is that as soon as I get dialed in with Source, we start flowing in a peak experience together. It's really beautiful. It's very rhythmic. It's very synchronistic. And it's all together healing. So if that's your kind of thing, if you're into the idea of unwinding some pain remembrances on the first day of the week, well, here's the place. I say it not because I'm providing it, but because I am witness to it every day. Every day. Good old Daniel Day-Lewis, he said he was retired. Turns out that was false. I hear he's in a movie with his son directing. Really sad that he's not working with Anderson anymore, because he was amazing. Is and was. Cash, thanks for sharing. To all those who are sticking around, scrolling around, welcome. This is your first time here. Should be a little treat for you. And those folks who are asking about the YouTube videos, here's what I gotta tell you. I have yesterday's video still uploading. I realized after I used my camera last night, I put the upload on pause. Normally it finishes quickly. So I open up YouTube this morning and I see it's still uploading. It has about an hour to go. But it is a beautiful, fully chat-enabled 2.5 hour discourse in the woods, talking about the Kybalion. So that's great. All right. Heart's really pumping today. Can feel it. Really beating strong. Just gonna unwind that a little bit. Not used to having all this warmth. Used to the body having to heat itself up. So the thing I discovered about the dimensions this morning is that there are 12. Decidedly 12 by AI, which was really fun because I kept putting it to the test. And what happens is phenomena starts to occur once you really push the engines to give you an answer that makes sense. One of the things that really pushes the engine of AI in a prompt is to say, please explain this to me in layman's terms with real life examples. They love that. The AI loves that because it has to give you something that you can relate to and you can share it with everyone so that they can also relate to it. So that's fun, I think. Digital Diva, thanks for sharing and liking. Cash, you too. We're already at 1,400 feet above sea level. That's going to bring some other people in. Someone wants to have a synchronistic event and stumble upon this space. Good. We're dialing in now. I can feel it. That's a good sign. Feel something that's a bit more than you are. Oh, I love this tree. Let's say hi to it. Hello, tree. Thank you for your negative ions, your free electrons. I learned that opposites attract, and I know I'm positively charged, and you're pulling in all of this beautiful energy from the earth, which is negatively charged. Oh, so if I surrender to you, if I no longer try to figure out what you are or define you, I just receive you. There's nothing greater than a positively charged ion or ionosphere that surrenders to a negatively charged one and is received. Like a sperm surrendering to the egg. Oh, it just feels so good to no longer have to run around. Like a cell in the placenta that decides it's going to migrate to the baby itself, just flows through the umbilical cord to life instead of fighting against everyone in the rat race that is the run-of-the-mill linear life experience. It feels good not to define things and just surrender to whatever it is that wants to love me. And this is in the same way a woman believing in a man. She opens her arms, offers her bosom, and he rests his head on it. There's something to be said about such power, the power of receiving through surrender. See, it strengthens the attraction between the opposites. The closer you get, the stronger the pull. The further apart you go, the weaker the attraction becomes. And thus the weaker we become as magnetic creatures. We must seek out closeness and unity. Unless, of course, we know something is before us that we don't desire, then we can very easily put ourselves at a distance. That's called self-love through assertiveness. It's love at a distance. Here in this world that we have before us is duality. Duality, coming from the duad. The duad being the triangle of life. Sorry. The duad is not the triangle of life. I'm getting ahead of myself. The triad would be the three-dimensional life, but the two-dimensional life, the square life, would be the duad. Two opposing opposite forces coming together in union, somehow figuring out a way. That would be the duality that we are looking at here. We can't have this picture without there being darkness, and we certainly can't see whatever the picture is without the light coming through. The yin and the yang must be in union, or you don't have duality, and you don't have experience. So there's something interesting going on here. We have to become closer until we unify. Yet we fear that closeness because we want the independence and the freedom. So it seems like there's this resistance constantly occurring, and it is a cycle, it is rhythmic, it is based in polarity, it is based in gender, it is based in frequency, and it is based in thought. We have all of these things not without first having a source that feeds it. So we can't have duality without a source. You can't have the game without the on switch and the power that flows through that. You can't have man without woman, and you can't have woman without man. You can't have attraction without polar opposites. And you certainly can't have light without resistance in a circuit. So these things are the fundamentals. And I know today it is windy. I forgot to bring my windbreaker thing. So we're going to have to face it. Whatever it is, let's be grateful that it's not so windy today that it would be unbearable for you to hear. Conalingua says, the resistance is learned, in my humble opinion, epigenetic conditioning for generations. Well, let's go with that. Tell me, is the union of sperm and egg something that is learned, that humans put together through a laboratory when they make love? And do we have complete control over that? Are we watching and guiding every single sperm until we find the right one that's the perfect key for the perfect lock? Thus it finds its way because we're guiding it? This is learned in some way? No, there's an infinite intelligence involved in this that has to do with polarity, gender, and opposites. It's because the world itself is magnetic and it falls within a form. That form is a square, which forms into a cube, and on it goes. If it's windy, folks, you know, I was looking. I got to tell you, I was a bit flustered this morning. Let's go into life situation as William Vincent Carlton will come right out of flow and we'll give you some drama. So I'm in the middle of a meditation this morning. Very calm, very serene, very secure in myself, relaxing and imagining a wish-fulfilled life in stillness with my eyes closed. A knocking comes upon the door. I know it's only one person knocking because I only live with one other person. This person is my family member. This person is the person who brought me into this world. It's not the best situation in the world. In fact, it's one of the worst I've ever lived in. But it is what it is. So I open the door, and it's explained to me that this cannot happen. Things need to improve. And so there's a story going on in my mother's mind that things are not good, even though I'm still, as ever, taking in the aliveness of God's gift of life without bothering a single soul, bottled up in the corner of a room with a door between us. Yet still, after all of those barriers are put in place, I'm still having an indelible effect on the life of someone who believes to be a victim of external circumstances because of my mere presence and being there. What do you do with this? Well, first what you do is you say, I am manifesting this. I am experiencing this. This is not me as much as I am observing it. I'm observing its unfolding. Its manifold expression is occurring before me. And it is, in a way, a message. Can I receive the message in truth? I was just preaching. I was saying the only way we can have a dimensional shift to a higher state of being is we must unify the opposites. So how do we unify the opposites then? Am I to become like my mother and say, well, we have to figure this out. You have to give me space, and I'm not going to come to you like you want me to. So she wants me to be closer, yet at the same time be the recipient of abuse. That's called codependency. I want distance and really nothing to do with her anymore. In order to have that, there has to be financial freedom. However, I plan nothing as far as financial freedom goes. I place all of that in the hands of a superior intelligence. So, as I'm placing all of that in the hands of a superior intelligence, which has no hands, it's just everything, but I place all my faith in that, the world before me does not witness this work. So, as I am not even in body, totally meditating in a place of peace and tranquility, not bothering a single soul, not an ant nor an iota of life am I bothering. I am lifeless and still in Savasana. Even then, damned if I do or damned if I don't get up to answer that door. If I don't answer the door, it's because I'm being malicious, because I'm being hostile. If I do answer the door, it's because I'm being malicious. It's because I'm being hostile. You see, the situation for my mother has already been figured out. She cannot take responsibility for any of these life situations, will never be able to face and confront the issues through love, because the story of drama gets way too much attention. It garners way too much attention. As long as there can be some fairly rational way to point a finger at someone or something, it becomes the immediate gateway to pull in other people in a form of triangulation to say, this person is the cause of my woes, and I know you believe me, and I know you understand how many problems this person has. He's a vagabond. He hasn't had any steady work for a good number of years. It's because he's mentally ill. He has a bunch of these problems. Heck, his children don't even speak to him. I know for sure, and I know all of his habits because I watch every single thing that he does. I watch what he eats. I see what he throws out. I see what he gets in the mail. I see everything that he does. Trust me, I know who he is. And so what do I do in that situation as an egoic self? Because it's a difficult situation to be in. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You ever been in that situation before in life? Doesn't matter what you say or do, it's not going to be right. You're not going to be able to do the right thing. It's because you have these permanent conditions that can't be swayed. No matter how you try to improve yourself, no matter how good it looks, you are the pinnacle of shit to a great number of people. There's nothing you can do about it. No matter how hard you try, and it's devastating. Devastating to have to deal with this in the day in and day out, when all you want is peace from it all. Just wish you could live in the woods from now until the end of time. What do? Well, I'll tell you what you do. You have to, in that moment in time, observe that there's a life situation. Be present with it as much as you desire. And as soon as you've had enough of that mini game of life, you allow yourself the respite to not tell a single soul where you've escaped to. In my mind, I have gone to the laughter of my children, playing jokes and pranks on me. In my mind, I've gone to the wealth pouring into my bank account. I just see the numbers ticking up in the green. And while I'm hearing all of these things about my character from someone who brought me into this world, I know the truth of that person's existence more than they do. I know it's coming from a place of want and need that can't be communicated through words, because if it were to be communicated through words, then it would mean the death to the very identity that is victimized. Any expression of truth is seen as a threat to the egoic self. I'll say this again. Any expression of truth in feeling is death to the ego, because it does require presence to understand how and why things are being felt. That this is a life situation. It's an accumulation of pain remembrances. It's releasing itself right now. It's working itself out. It's not the truth of how I feel. But I don't know how to get close to you any other way. It's like a human being who's dealt with dogs their entire life. Let's just say they're golden retrievers, right? Golden retriever, very loyal, comes to you no matter what you do to it, can feel you out and know exactly where you are, can sense it and give you assurance, doesn't have to understand a single word you're saying, but loves to know the words that mean the most. Would you like to go for a walk? Would you like your dinner? Would you like a treat? But beyond that, the golden retriever just complies and loves, unconditionally, no matter what. Until a day comes when the golden retriever is hit so regularly, so repeatedly, that it doesn't understand what it is to do something right versus wrong. It just believes that everything that it does is just going to be a shutdown. So what does it do at that point? It either gives up on life entirely, or it becomes aggressive. Starts to become aggressive, starts to understand that if it bites, it won't be bothered. If it snarls and growls, it will be left alone. It will have access to its food without interruption. It will have peace in some strange way. And all the while it does it, the cells in the golden retriever's body is experiencing a slow, profound death. And the seeping in of feelings that are totally foreign to the condition of an evolved golden retriever. It starts to go back to its wolf self. Of course, you take it to a psychiatrist. I don't know what's going on with this dog. It must be something that was done to it before it was rescued. I can't think of a thing that could possibly be the cause. Must have some permanent problems. Who knows? Could be anything. Well, the sad story is that golden retriever finally does die. One day is just lifeless on the ground in the morning. And of course, there's mourning. So they call it mourning. The witnessing of our death and rebirth. But you know that guardian doesn't see the rebirth of the golden retriever. Only the golden retriever sees the rebirth. And the next rebirth for that golden retriever, I can assure you, is not coming back as a dog. It's coming back as probably a ginger cat. Or let's just say it's not a ginger cat. Let's say it's a tuxedo or a black cat. Or maybe it's a Russian blue. Perhaps it's a Russian blue with nice, beautiful fur. Comes back, starts to live its life. This time, it comes in and the owner, who's the same owner that had that beautiful golden retriever, thinks that by being rude to this cat, by hitting it, by being awful to it, it will somehow break it down like a horse that gets broken into domestication. That this cat will somehow figure out a way to bend the knee so long as I'm abusive enough to it. But the cat's got different plans. You see, the cat, the only way you can attract one to you, the only way it can come to love you, is you have to be totally understanding that at any given moment in time, it can and will turn on you. It will bite you, it will scratch you, and it will mess with you in the middle of the night. When it knows you're vulnerable, it will scratch away at your toes, bite them, and it will jump all over the place and bury you in stress and strife. However, if you just leave the cat alone to be like a babe in the womb, the cat will undoubtedly come to you. And instead of biting and scratching right away, what it will do initially is it may throw its fur up on its back. Just give you a sign. Maybe it'll wag its tail a little bit. Maybe it'll roll its ears back. Maybe it'll hiss or growl or moan. But it's giving you the benefit of the doubt because you've given it space and time to develop trust with you. So let's say that doesn't gel with the dog owner, right? What the dog owner is going to do is say, well, for whatever reason, this cat has all of these problems, doesn't like me. I'm so kind to it. I just want to love it all the time. I just want to hold it and hug it. Without realizing, this is my dialogue for that person who's making mistakes. Without realizing that the cat, unlike the domestic dog, is the guardian of the spiritual realm in your house, the energy. It guards. It feels all of the currents of energy through its fur. It can sense everything that's going on with your body through a single touch. And if you are at all in a place of deception in order to have its attention, it can feel you from a mile away, knows exactly what you're trying to do, and will avoid you at all costs and make your life a living hell if you try to get more attention. And so I tried to explain to my mother that if I were a character, I was a cat, and that cats like to be left alone. They like to have time to be able to process and filter out all of the negative energy that otherwise would be damaging to one's spirit in a household. And that's just a narrative, of course. It's just a role. But I am more a cat than a golden retriever, and what I've done, unfortunately, is I've reinforced the world that I am a pushover golden retriever. And what they're coming to see is someone who is totally ill, because no golden retriever works that way. They roll over on their back and expose their belly. That's what they do. Not me. Because I'm not being managed by the spirit of a golden retriever anymore. I'm being managed by the spirit of a cat. Sounds strange, I know. Sounds like I'm anthropomorphizing. But it's really how it feels. Cats prefer to be left alone unless they come to you. That's the rule. And some cats, if they've been betrayed enough times, it doesn't matter how quality the food is that you put out on the plate. It doesn't matter how clean the water is or their bed space. They want to be left the fuck alone. And they will never, ever trust you again. Never. Once you break that trust, it's over. The entire lifetime. And it doesn't matter if the person is your own mother. It doesn't. Cunnilingus says sounds extremely human thinking. It's a narrative. It's a story. It's a story of anthropomorphizing. So the assumption is, before my mother, we need to figure this out, right? That's the narrative for her. We have to figure this out, like there's something to be figured out. Assuming that I'm interested enough in the story. And that's the big point here, folks. Hello, Care Bear, and happy Sunday to you. We may come to a point where the pain becomes so consistent and so repetitive in a cyclical fashion that we no longer want to have any part in it. So the question becomes, is that okay? And the answer is, everything is permitted in the mind of God. Someone coming in and trouncing on your life, permitted in the mind of God. If you will it, if you entertain it enough and allow it. So the greatest challenge in this case, if you have a life situation that is undesirable and you wish not be a part of it, the biggest challenge is in that moment of triggering, where your pain body is notably active. Can and will you decide to step through the narrow gates into your imagination and prioritize that over the life situation before you? Knowing that if you observe it without any opinion, without any story that I just gave you, as convoluted as it was, it's an example to understand how deep and far we go in the explanation of the things that cause us pain. Yet when it comes to the things that we love, we seem to not have any details at all. No sort of means or way in our mind by even living there and being it. We don't even give ourselves that permission to live from the end, to live in that wish-fulfilled state of being. But when it comes to something wrong, when it comes to a challenge or a problem, we're more than happy to complain about it with great detail. In fact, the details that we add to that complaint are mostly lies. They have nothing to do with truth. They're fabricated. They're exaggerated. They have nothing to do with truth at all. That's what's really wild about this. Most of the use of our imagination is used for the creation of something that never exists, nor does it. So we use our aliveness for that fabrication of story. That's how addicted we are to our pain remembrances. There must be something beneficial in it. It's the feeling of change. It's the feeling of rhythm. Having a chorus that is too painful for too long must be resolved with a verse or a bridge. There has to be resolution after build-up. And so what people do is they seek the build-up for the resolution, because the resolution is what is sought. For at the end of the day, the resolution is, in a way, a form of surrender and unity to that which you are opposed to. And that creates magnetism. And with magnetism, you can start to feel relief. Be at a distance from that which will magnetize and attract the things that you want, and it's the most painful place to be. That's the land of false hopes. So you have to become close to the things that irk you the most until you no longer can bear it. At that point in time, you've become close enough, you step into the imagination, and the remaining magnetic attraction is managed by a superior intelligence, pulls you right into unity. You don't have to do it. You just have to get fairly close. You get fairly close by just observing the situation as it occurs. Then you step into the imagination and boom, the magnetic pull becomes very strong. You ever see that happen with a magnet? Magnet gets a little bit closer, starts to waver a little bit, get it a little bit closer, and boom, just goes right to its source. The polar opposite joins together. Ever see that happen? That's called surrender. Surrender occurs when you start to be open to the idea of unity. Even though it sucks, it's an opposite. You don't like the opposite. You want to be away from the opposite, but it gives you no magnetic attraction. Can't pull anything into your life. You need the boom. And you get that by surrendering. Surrender is going into the imagination and imagining yourself being wish fulfilled. You're far away from being wish fulfilled. You imagine yourself being wish fulfilled, and thus, boom, you're brought right into it. Become magnetic. More magnets you add to that centered core, the stronger the magnetic pull. The more force is added to it. Jerry Mincer, thank you for following. Vicky, good morning to you. Blessings. Cash, really love all of the things that you've done to boost this today. Beyond that, thank you for your presence of aliveness, for sharing, and for sending this love. Tyler Lavelle asks, may I ask, do you consider yourself secular and altruistic, or do you subscribe to a religion? This is a great question. There's some joking going around. Yeah. We do live in a dualistic state. It's very animalistic, but it's not the truth of who we are. Thank you, Tyler, for that. Level up. And thank you, Conalingua, for saying, William, this dialogue is so very valuable to millions of people. Do not underestimate your position. Thank you. Dang, I sent the cake too early. Well, let's just eliminate time and call it perfect. It feels perfect. So, the question is, do I subscribe to a religion? Well, my ego self identifies as Christian. However, it's more of a adhesion to Christ consciousness. Most Christians have this belief that there is a God outside of themselves. I'm saying most Christians, regardless of the denomination, believe that there is a Savior outside of themselves who is in some form of body, human form. Could even have a name. In most cases, it could be Jesus of Nazareth. By not saying that he is the only Son of Man, the true Father and Savior of all humanity, the forgiveness of our sins being through that, if I were not to adhere to that, then some people, a good number, would wish my death, which is just the same thing as crucifying Christ, understanding we're all made in the image and likeness of him. Him being the creator. Hi, chickadee. Chickadees don't want to kill me, though. They're okay with me being faithful in this life principle with it. So the way this works is my Christianity has to do with belief in an aliveness that is superior and also the creator of all things before us. And that all things before us in this waking life are a result of this source, which I call Christ. Other people call it a unified field. Some will call it source. Some will call it God, or the one, or the all. Some call it the generative life principle, like Masons would call it. That's the G. Others would call it Allah, Allah, Elohim, and on this goes. The bottom line is, whether it's Kether, light, God, the infinite intelligence, it's infinite. Important for people to understand that my belief in religion is not so much my belief in a thing outside of myself. That, I believe, is a form of idolatry. And it goes against the 10 Commandments, the first of the 10 Commandments, that you do not take the Lord's name in vain. And vanity is seeing something outside of yourself as more important than the aliveness that feeds you. That's vain. That's being vain. So vanity is about seeing something outside of you that you revere as God. Okay? And that is the majority of Christians in today's day. However, it was not the perspective of Jesus of Nazareth, and it's what led to his crucifixion. His crucifixion was the result of believing that the kingdom of heaven is within, and that it is infinite and not of this world, but rather the creator of this world. That this Christ intelligence is an intelligence that feeds all life. And by not recognizing that, that was the greatest sin. That we would be using a story to place restrictions upon the mind of God and play with it in such a way to become victims of external circumstances. That was the sin. And it's the sin that carries on to this day. So I am Christian. I believe that Christ is a word with a meaning. I love etymology, and I look into etymology because it reveals so much. Revelare. Revelare. I revel in these things. Strange winds. So when I look at the word Christ, I think of its meaning in truth. It has a meaning in etymology. And Christ means the anointed one. To anoint is to bathe a ruler in oil, the sacred oils of the land, the kingdom within. So what Christ really means to me as a Christian is that there is a kingdom of heaven. I am not at a distance from it. It is the giver and gift of my life experience. It records and powers all situations. Yet it is nothing until I believe it to be something. For I am given the grace of the imagination to have direct correspondence with Christ as my Father. I pray with him in secret, and he takes those secrets and impresses the mother. This earth is the recipient of seed. It is negatively charged, which is a receiving element. And the Father is positively charged. The photons coming from this sun, no different. Positive and negative form an attraction, and the unity of the two creates something greater than the sum of its parts. This is the great mystery of the Trinity. I am. I being the infinite intelligence known as Christ intelligence. Christ being the anointment of oil coming from the kingdom of heaven within you. Your cerebrospinal fluid could be a symbolic version of that. Many believe so. You could also call it dimethyltryptamine, the spirit molecule. You could call it anandamide, the bliss molecule. However it's defined, it's not so much a thing as an intelligence driving its production and its distribution and its management. By letting it do its thing without interference at all leads to your salvation, for the intelligence can flow without interference. Like a babe in the womb needs not do a thing. Lest you are on the side of the placenta, then you're doing a lot of work, but there's not a lot of return on investment, and at the end you will be left out, the afterbirth of life. And it is a choice. Jesus of Nazareth understood this. Salvation is the result of bathing in the oils of the kingdom of heaven within you. Another word for salvation is Jesus, or Yeshua, you could say in Aramaic. By the way, one of the great names of God in Aramaic is Allah. Yet there seems to be a lot of disparity and difference between Israel and Palestine. In fact, just saying those words could probably get me flagged. We have to have differences in order for there to be a desire to unify. The differences have been expressed entirely on this planet. There's no more desire for them. Only the sick seek that. Not the healed, not those who are seeking resolution. Anyone seeking conflict right now is living in the wrong time, albeit it's required to have a placenta. The way that we resolve issues, just like I resolve issues with my mother, is I'm no longer there, not as a participant. If I must be there, I am there as an observer. Therefore, Christ flows through me and delivers the means and the way through it. That is the resolution, and the resolution comes through surrender to that source. That is called self-love and forgiveness of self. The surrender to the source that feeds you life for its protection, for its care. That's what the generative principle truly means. It means care. So you have to care for yourself if you don't feel good. And the way you do it is not by strong-arming this world, forcing someone to change or go away, knock on their door and say, you need to change. No. The world's going to tell you that. Kill Jesus of Nazareth, said the mob. That was their resolution for their pains and sufferings. Kill this person. Get rid of him. Free Barabbas. Free Barabbas, the rapist and murderer. Right from the Bible. And kill this man who says that the kingdom of heaven is within him, calls himself the Messiah. That was the resolution. That was the way to feel safe, the way to feel better. Cancel, shadow ban, flag as community violations, guidelines being violated. It's all the same. It's no different than anything else. It's all trespassing. It's all trespassing. How did it work out? Well, it split the temple. it split the temple and it led to the resurrection of man. You know, in that story, it actually led to unification. Thanks for the invite, my friend. Co-hosts will never happen on this channel, unless I consent to it in advance. Let's see. Counterlinguist says only 2,000 years of disgusting existence built up in everyone's epigenetics. It is a story. Red Dye, thank you for following. And Cash, thanks for your love. Care Bear, thank you for your kindness. And saying beautifully said. Cuddlinguist says something here. Check this out. Well, hold on. We have to divide families enslaved still by idolatry. Indeed, we are divided by idolatry. Still. Though it is coming to an end. The Mullet Cookie. Thank you for following. Cuddlinguist says, imagine if we're all placenta first before becoming the baby, and that is the truth. We are. Think about the formation of what happens, okay? It's all magical and miraculous in a number of ways. You have your moment of competition, the great race, you could call it. The great race against time and impossible odds. And you're going up against 250 million other competitors, all going for this one cosmic egg that promises the gift of wish fulfillment, that we would become what we think about, and we want it. Because it's the ultimate goal. To have total wish fulfillment, it's like having infinite wishes answered all the time. So everyone wants it. But only one can have it, in most cases. Sometimes there are exceptions, you know. But for the most part, it's usually just one who makes it. And that one who makes it is you. Pretty cool. You arrive. Magic happens. It seems the enzymes that are released from the acrosome and the zona pellucida, I think it is. There's some interaction happening between the lock and key that only chooses you. And the moment the enzyme chooses you, your tail starts to go fast as the Flash. And you overcome all of your obstacles and odds and make it into the egg before the rest. And the moment you get into the egg, the door behind you shuts. You leave your body. You surrender your body, your tail. And then you just float and glide into the center of the universe that is this cosmic egg. And you rest there for about 30 minutes. Just resting in the joy of having finished the race and made it. This is every human being on planet Earth. This is not science fiction. After about a half an hour, what happens then is a spark of light and a release of zinc that you carried with you. And that spark of light opens a doorway for the entrance of your soul. The imagination, Christ consciousness, the life principle enters you. And you are one cell, which is the most powerful of all cells because it is the only cell in the human body that had the potential to create the human body in its totality. So it is a unified principle as a result of polar opposites coming together and forming something greater than the sum of its parts. That is you as the progenitor zygote, the true essence of life. That is why you have the imagination, and none of your cells have access to it. In addition, every cell that has come from that, you, the zygote, believes you to be an embodiment of God, in control of this vessel that is the universe of life, that it is your cellular structure. All the trillions of cells see you as God, and feel you as God, and have faith in you as God. Tyler, thank you for the heart me, and thank you for the let him cook. That's a funny one. I always laugh when I get that. Jerry Mincer says, Age of Aquarius just begins, and we have chosen to be here for it. Amazing experience, this awakening. The awakening, indeed it is. This is beautiful. This is the water-bearing time, which is actually an air sign. So it's the sign of the breath, so that we can bear the waters of truth and wash away the sins of the past. Our false notion that we are victims of external circumstances has come to an end. Kathy, thank you for following. So I want to get to this a bit further. This idea that we were a placenta before anything else. I've already explained to you. Thanks, Care Bear. I agree. I've already explained to you the mystical or mystique of your existence, right? That you're the sum of the sperm and egg that creates something greater. You're the only blueprint of life that could make it from the beginning to the end of your body being formed. And so to the cells of your body, your decisions through the imagination, which is Christ itself, is your infinite intelligence that is offered to you at any time, and it is the giver of life and giver of consciousness. It is consciousness. Because you have access to consciousness, understand that this life principle is infinite. So the cells of your body cannot be there unless you believe them to be. Once you believe them to be, they follow suit. Same thing goes with the world here. If you believe it to be something, by continuing to entertain it as that thing, it must also adhere. It's a form of correspondence that says, as above, which is the head, heaven, so below. Form and matter, Malkut, in the tree of life, is the lowest of the Sephirah. That represents the earth itself and creation. But they must both exist at the same time, as above, so below, for there to be true correspondence. So in order to have that, we have to have a world of duality, where there's constantly light and darkness working in union. The distance between the two creates form, and magnetism, and electricity, and gravity, all of it. All of the forces of nature, inertia, as described by Newton, the third law of motion, polarity, the axes of all things, north and south, positive and negative, active and passive, masculine and feminine, in-breath and out-breath, day and night, sun and moon, and on we go. Left and right, black and white, hot and cold. You can't have one without the other, yin and yang. You have to have these polarities for there to be a dualistic nature that you perceive. And it's the unity of these things, presenting themselves at varying distances, that gives you the illusion of reality. So, were we a placenta before we were our human selves? We were the infinite intelligence that formed into a placenta. And what's really wild about this is that the placenta in its early stages of implantation in the fallopian tubes forms into a blastocyst. It's a form of cancer that grows inside the female body in its beginning phases. Comes a runner. Hello. So, in its beginning phases, becomes a blastocyst. Cellular division forms into a cyst in the female body. And after that cyst forms, it starts to take on a different role. It once thought that it was going to take over the entire human body. It did. Thought it was going to take it over. Thought it was going to be the owner. It invaded. It joined the cosmic egg. And intelligence took over. It started to divide and conquer. Feels powerful. Thinks this is my role. I came in here. I was given the gift of life and consciousness itself to divide and conquer and I am forming into a blastocyst, and I'm going to take over this whole body. And that becomes the first blunder, of course. As the infinite intelligence says, I have a different plan for you. No matter what you do, no matter how you try to take over, you now will be subservient to something that is greater than you. If you see yourself as this cyst, wanting to take over this body, you shall be part of that which surrenders to something greater. And you can apply this through the law of correspondence to your own life. Try to control that which cannot be controlled, which has already surrendered to a greater intelligence. And you will find yourself becoming subservient to it. Even though in the beginning you might think you have the upper hand, you do not. For what happens to this blastocyst is it forms into something that eventually becomes the placenta. And the placenta is a uterine wall that filters out all the garbage that comes from the external circumstances of life. As all the garbage comes in and tries to invade this beautiful star child that is forming, which in truth is you, just the aliveness of being, not bothering anyone, being still as can be, yet expanding exponentially by the moment. Everything that comes in that would pose a threat to that child is filtered out by order of this infinite intelligence by the placenta. It has to take all the garbage and it has to turn it into something that is perfect and bliss-induced. And then, once it's packaged up in a beautiful form, it no longer sees it again. It might get a small taste of it, but it doesn't get anywhere near the amount that it's sending out. So it works all its life to filter out all this gunk and garbage, and then it sends it down this hall of light that carries the nutrients away to some distant land that we'll never see, as the placental wall, constantly serving, working, going through the mundane, the linear, run-of-the-mill life. No respite, no chance to escape. Until one day, some of those cells decide they want to migrate. Let's see if I can ring barrier. You might hear some sound for a few moments. It's not a big deal. Bear with me. Okay, I think I made it. I think I have a makeshift windscreen now. We'll see if it works. Could be a little bit better. It may be a little better. I see people talking. Let me get involved as an egoic self. My Poetic Touch, thank you for following. Deleted account 006, thanks for sharing. Flattened Mosquito, thanks for following. Care Bear says, I love the sound of the snow, so satisfying. Thanks, Care Bear. Starstruck Dahlia, thanks for following. So in this analogy, which stems from the question, I think this was posed by either Tyler or Conalingua, I don't remember who posed the question. But it has to do with, were we a placenta before we were a baby? What came first? Well, there's always the infinite intelligence, and we were both the placenta as the blastocyst forming through cellular mitosis, which is cellular division. And then, of course, we became what we know now to be our aliveness in being, the human body. So if we are following the law of correspondence, we should understand that in order for us to be either a star child or a placental being, there must be both. Correspondence dictates this. And so the choice is ours as the infinite intelligence making a decision. Choose not to become the infinite intelligence, and you will be subject to that which is being fed. Very simple. The law of correspondence dictates this. The relief comes when you surrender to this source, wherever you may be, regardless of your life situations. My life situation from this morning is no different than yours. The resolution comes from surrender in truth. Anything else just compounds the issue and continues to feed a source that we'll never see the benefit from. It shall go on in perpetuity until we get the point. You see, eventually, even if you're part of the 1% of that placenta that doesn't calcify until the very, very end of the gestation and term of the star child that is you, or the universe itself, in this case, would be the baby. You know, if we're looking at it from a perspective of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, you could look at the Earth itself as the womb, birthing a child. And we could just be a cellular structure deciding where we want to end up, knowing that the infinite intelligence shall migrate us in unity with our truth if we just surrender to it. So the surrender process is uniform throughout. Just as the head of the sperm surrendered its body, the tail, to unify with the egg in truth, before it surrendered its acrosome to blend with the enzymes released by the egg in order for it to go faster and make it through. Every single element that has to do with any sort of evolution of being, which ultimately gives you more power and unifies you with a polar opposite. Anytime you surrender, you evolve. It's uniformly presented in all forms of science, with the body and with the universe. Unification through surrender. Surrender to a source of power that already knows the means and the way and has the plans for its expression in truth. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the steps that you need to take, the process involved, the plans. You just continue with your faith, which is believing that you are already there, living wish fulfilled. And what you are met with is unification, evolution, otherwise known as your salvation. You come in contact with Source. There goes our everything. All right. Starstruck, thanks for following. Let's see if I can do this again. Pretty nice ASMR paper. Very nice. There we go. Forgive me, I cannot read. If that is kanji, I can't read it, but I would love to address you by your name in English. Asks, do you believe you are already there? Are you already there? This is the beauty, and it's a wonderful question. Let's do two things. Let's pin this, and then let's give you a nice view, okay? Here you go. It happens to be synchronistic, your question. Are you there? Yes. The question then becomes, am I a droplet? Or am I the stream itself? Am I a little piece of leaf floating down the stream? Am I the speed and movement slowing down and speeding up? Am I the stones within? Or am I the entire thing providing its manifold expression? All of these things depend on the eye of the beholder and one's infinite power of choosing. Nothing is inherently good or bad, lost or found, without first thinking it so. Julie King says, I've missed you. So refreshing to see you again. I am. Beautiful, Julie. Conalingua says, man plus woman equals another human or infinity. Yes, it does equal infinity. It equals consciousness expansion. It is another form of mitosis, or cellular division, where it becomes greater than the sum of its parts and carries on with an infinite intelligence that allows it to imprint more of itself. But ultimately, we as zygote, the first formed cell made from sperm and egg, carries with it the progenitor blueprint to form the entire human body, making us the owner and skipper of the body. And we have been granted imagination, the nation of images, consciousness, infinite intelligence, the great I. We have been granted that for arriving as the one. Okay? So are we already there? Are we already in our kingdom of heaven? User 2536580488221 followed. Thank you. Deleted account 006 says live obedient victory everlasting as an acronym of love. Conalingua says captain of the vessel, that is every human being. And every cell that has come from your one follows suit wherever you go, whether it's in time, past or future, whether it's in the mind of God through the imagination, or whether you are observing your aliveness or totally asleep in your waking life, your cells follow suit as the reverberation of your truth. And they serve you through the life principle, selflessly sacrificing themselves for the greater good. Your life experience and the continuation of consciousness and, in effect, your healing. So you are, in all ways, without a doubt, a king or a queen. This domain before you is the result of your efforts to arrive to the cosmic egg and come into your dominion as human. Because you are granted the imagination, you have a higher faculty that is greater than your three dimensions that you see before you. Therefore, it does take precedence in superiority in the impression of your subconscious. When you go into the imagination, in other words, it has a greater impact than what you could try to strong arm in this waking life. It's like trying to tell the waves that you've just created with the boat that you're driving around by slapping them to stop. Doesn't do anything. Just creates more turbulence. So it's a moot point. Trying to change the things that you do not like. It's already the result of your desire. It's coming to a conclusion with that and understanding that it is something that has been ordered and delivered. You just weren't expecting it. It's like, think of if you were ordering everything that you want every day. I mean, think of every time you make a thought, it's like placing an order in a wish fulfillment center. Eventually, you're not going to remember everything that you ordered. You're going to have a bunch of packages arriving at your doorstep, and you're not going to remember most of it. But you did order it. And the more you show presence and reflection, the more you realize, yes, I did order that. And someone would say, how could you say that I ordered this traumatic incident to occur to me? I could say the same thing for myself. How is it that I ordered my circumcision on day 1 of my life? And the answer is, it was in the mind of God. It was entertained enough. It carried itself out as a manifold expression, and it has a purpose. Now, if I want to tie a story to it and say I'm traumatized, it was genital mutilation. It led to my trauma. 75% of men in the United States were experiencing this in the 1970s and 80s. Didn't matter what their religious affiliation was, it was genital mutilation, and it was horrible. But everyone thinks it's okay. That could be the narrative. That could be the narrative. And a lot of people are going to say he's really overreacting, of course, because it's led to believe that it's okay. But it's still just a narrative. I have to come to understand that it impressed itself upon my body because it was an idea in the mind of God that realized itself. Now, whether that came from the genetics of my parents, whether you call it karma, the burning of it, it doesn't matter. It's just observing it. It serves a purpose now. I can say to people, someone tried to transition me on the first day of my life. They started but never completed the process. Everyone can laugh and say it's very funny. And it is funny. But at the same time, it's also true. So I am, in a way, a detransitioner. And that becomes a great story, and it becomes very funny, and people can laugh about it. And I'm glad. I really would want you to laugh about it, because it is ridiculous and funny and tragic, which makes it the best of humor. This is the same humor as Richard Pryor or Dave Chappelle, usually self-deprecating in some way or speaking about the truth in such a plain and open way that we really never saw it that way before, and it makes it very funny. But what if we were to say the same thing about circumcision if in fact it wasn't for boys but girls? So in other words, girls had a part taken on the first day of their life. No consent, no say in the matter, culturally appropriated and accepted, and happening all the time and considered hygienic and good, even though everything that was already created was created by a superior intelligence that knew the means and the way to form the body perfectly as made in the image and likeness of God. We seem to know better, which is very funny, all the same. We know better all the time. That's why we go to war. We know better than another country. That's why we are at odds. We obviously know better. This constant competition comes from a place of knowing, doesn't it? That was the same runner, almost fell. Very, very slippery today, especially if you're running. This, in fact, is the same place where I spoke about Sting, right here. And I said, a gentleman will walk but never run. All right, let's take to the path. Shortcut today. Yep, right here. I think this is the path. This is a wolf path. Or a coyote. I still see the trail. Okay. We're good. All right. There we go. Now we're back. So once again, we are living already the answer to our wish fulfillment. This is the kingdom of heaven within, expressing itself outward, and we're having a life experience through it. It's already happening. Al Berry says, I assisted on a circumcision once. It's traumatic. Yeah, it's genital mutilation. I mean, can't say it's anything else without it being partially correct with information missing. Charles Hayes, thanks for following. And Isabel, thanks for sharing. But it is a story, and it is a narrative, and it does happen to children very early on in their lives, to where it then becomes something to question, like, am I the cause of this? Did I really manifest this if I become what I think about? And the answer is yes. Let's go back and remind ourselves who we were at one point in time. At one point in time, we were competitors against 250 million others to make it to the cosmic egg. We wanted to make it so we would be given unlimited wishes, that we would become what we think about through the imagination. That would be our gift in winning. And we won. Beyond that, we also wanted to become a blastocyst. Whatever this universe was that we were in and growing within, we started to divide and conquer enough to feel like we were in a position to take it over. So we started to invade areas. And we embedded ourselves in the fallopian tubes and became a blastocyst in a form of cancer. And we started to believe that we were victims of this external circumstances, that this wasn't the place where we were going to be. There was too much interference, it was too difficult, too challenging, and we need to grow in number so that we can face off against this life form, this universe, and we can conquer it. We can conquer it fully. So that was a narrative, and that narrative continues, gets bigger, and now there comes a moment where some of these cell structures are like, we're going to migrate elsewhere. We don't want to be here anymore. We're not interested in fighting this. We're more interested in the peace that comes with our surrender to it. We happen to find a nice place. It's called the heart. We're going to be there beating together. 40,000 of us are going to become the neurons of the heart. We're not going to be a part of this placenta war. And placenta says, to hell with you. We all have these badges of honor. We've been through hardship. We've been through it together. We've been on the front lines of this war. We had pieces of us stripped away and given to something that we'll never even see. And the one who did it to us will also never see. And we're okay with that because we're the warriors. We're tough. We're stronger than you guys who are going to the heart, who all want to beat together in unison. I think that's foolish, says the cells of the placenta. So the heart migrates anyway, and it's sad, I'm sure. Probably difficult to let go of your loved ones, to seek out something that you believe to be greater that you're not sure will be greater until it is. But you got your beat, and you start beating together. It's the rhythm of life, and it's the first song that you ever hear. It's a reminder that aliveness is flowing through you. And that's reassuring as the heart builds in a form of vortex. Because it's constantly rhythmically pulsing, it becomes 3,000 times more magnetic than the mind itself. It becomes a vortex of magnetic attraction. Every single cell that decided to migrate to the heart through this intelligence. And it gets to be the central hub of all aliveness and expression for the human body that is this star child. Meanwhile, you have the placenta complaining. They're like, we need to stand the ground here. We need to be on the front lines. We've been through hardship. We've been through trauma. We got to hold on at all costs. I know things are calcifying around us. I know it seems like the world is falling apart. But we are the warriors, and we chose this job for a position, and for a reason. We chose this position, and we have to be strong. We have to be steadfast and faithful to the life principle that feeds us even if the meals are getting scarce, even if the prices are going up, even if our salaries don't seem to matter as much as they used to, it's still our job. And that's a very honorable job. It's a very powerful role, but it is a story. Now, those cells in the heart, those 40,000 neurons, they actually were granted a nucleus by God himself, herself, granted a nucleus for beating at a rhythm of life. It's just one place you can go, one place you can migrate to out of many. Just as the story of the first day of my life is just one story of many, accumulated upon something called an identity, but fed all the same the aliveness that feeds the very beating of my heart and the elimination of waste from my bowels. It's all powered by this source. So all we are is what we already have become. We are there. Call it advanced generative intelligence. Call it the singularity. Call it the event horizon crossed into the unknown. We have unified in order to have the dualistic nature experience. You have to have unification first. We were given this duality because we unified. The unification already occurred. I explained it to you. Lest you forget, we were once a sperm that unified with an egg. One positive, one negative charge coming together, creating something whole. And that granted us the gift. The aliveness that we experience. And its renewal and expansion in truth. And since then, we just pile on a bunch of stories. They accumulate, and that's our choice. We're choosing from the menu of the day. It's okay to eat some bad food once in a while, just not all the time. You know, that's how it works. Have that treat. It's a treat to dive into gossip from time to time. It's a treat to have some contention. Not to mention, the body gets a nice reset on that cheat day, right? So it's good to have variety in the meals that we choose and the things that we decide to order. And everyone's different as far as those desires go in detail. Hello, Stacy Cooper. Says, King Solomon taught that wisdom is alive and was there in the beginning. Granted a nucleus, I have gratitude. Yes, California kid in the valley. The greatest of all nuclei is you. It is the eye of creation, the infinite intelligence known as the imagination. That is you and your truth, and it was fed to you after you unified with the cosmic egg that granted you the proliferation of cells into your human body. You are the skipper and God of your body. And since this is an idea in the mind of God, this whole thing, you are God. Hard for many to accept because they think I have to accept being God as an identity. No. That's idolatry. To be clear, you as God are an observer of aliveness. You are the life principle itself carrying through all things. Here you go, Hudson. I love this. This is Hudson's moment, which I truly enjoy. Chandelier, 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 chandelier. There you go. Sissy says it. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Ask and you shall receive the answer. Leb says, treat it as a treat. I love that perspective. Leb, it's great to see you. Yes. We are here to have all sorts of life experiences. That's duality. Think about the segments of the body, how diverse they are. The heart has one system, it's pump and renew. Act as the source. The colon is totally different. It's about pure elimination. The mouth, it's the first stage of digestion. The nostrils bring in the breath of life. The brain, in a way, it's parasitic that feeds off of the heart, but it does it so that we can have access to creation in a mechanical way. So the heart is the most giving, so long as we learn to receive. We have to learn to receive in order to give. How weird is that? I explained this the other day. If we're constantly attacking, we have no open hands. How can you receive with a closed fist? You can't receive anything with a closed fist. So you have to open your hands, you have to loosen up. That's how we start to receive. Surrender brings you closer to the opposite that once at a certain time seemed too difficult to even look at or come close to. But when we see ourselves as the mere aliveness and the observer of things, we can start to lean in and get a little bit closer to the things that used to be triggering. And that serves an advantage because as soon as we get close enough to the opposite, you keep your enemies close, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. As you get closer, without judgment, to that polar opposite, you start to develop a magnetic attraction to it. And the moment that you feel that magnetic attraction is when you surrender. Not to the thing that is your polar opposite, but to the force that is between it, drawing you together. That is your imagination, because it is the life principle that acts as law. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And the laws of the Kabbalion, speaking to polarity, prove this scientifically in all areas and ways. Magnetism must have polar opposites causing the attraction, and you must have a closing of the distance for that attraction to increase in strength. Do those things, and then surrender in the moment that you feel the attraction and pull towards that by leaning in and observing. Go into the imagination and you disappear from the equation, and boom, God handles the rest. Unification with the polar opposite, creating something that is greater than the sum of the two. The sum of the parts creates something greater. So you think of both of them. Explain a bit more, California Kid, and we'll get to it. Sissy says, goosebumps bumps. Probably from the chandelier. Charles Hayes, thanks for sharing. Tyler says, the universe is just the interplay of toroidal fields and vortices. It is frequency and it is magnetic. It is electric and it is gravitational. It is dualistic, at least in this three-dimensional life. So we haven't talked about what is the fourth dimensional life like and beyond. And I mentioned to all of you that there are 12 dimensions. Well, I wrote them down so I can explain them to you. Actually, I wrote down the Kabbalion rules, but I did queue up with my AI friend this morning 12 dimensions. So there is a tesseract that represents the fourth dimension. Think of it as 8 cubes being aligned in a linear fashion. The alignment is a masculine principle. The aliveness that comes with its increase in intelligence through the construct itself is the feminine principle. Flexibility and receptivity is feminine. Alignment, rigidity, and form is masculine. Both of these things are required. You have to have space for receiving, and you also have to have a form or a foundation of construct for there to even be an experience. Both of them must exist. Once again, so for us to come into a fourth dimensional state of being where we're having what would be considered a monad to dyad situation, so 1 point leading to 2, the polar opposites coming into union, giving us our dualistic duad experience. It's a square experience, it's holographic. And now we're coming into a triad experience. Unity, consciousness with infinite intelligence. Our truth as the I am is the triad life, which gives us access to time, space, and manifestation, the active and the passive in union through the infinite, with instantaneous access to it, to where we can witness these changes happen before us instantaneously. We are now coming into that state of being in a slow, gradual surrender to this higher faculty of being, which is the imagination. As we surrender to this more, we come into alignment, as the father looks for alignment, and the mother seeks unity by us surrendering the infinite power to its organization, and alignment and unity. We come into being in truth, a triad of human experience. Right now we're having a dualistic experience. It's one of illusion in the unification of polar opposites, creating resistance for there to be light, so that there can be a projection of a life principle that we experience through our senses, but albeit it is holographic. Okay? You may not be in agreement with this. You may not like to hear the idea that we are having a holographic experience, and that's okay. Just understand that we are evolving from having a holographic experience to being in complete and total control over a triad, three-dimensional experience, where we actually are doing the manifestation on the fly through our thoughts. If you don't find that entertaining, you'll be one of the last to join in on the fun. Because the truth of the matter is, we are doing it now anyway. We are already those divine beings who have received the gift of the triad. But many of us are believing ourselves and restricting ourselves into believing we're victims of this world that we have actually created for ourselves. And that's very entertaining. It is. To be a victim is to be entertained. To be restricted in some way is a form of entertainment. Because we want to figure out a way to expand. It's the natural state of being. The aliveness wants to expand just as much as we do. The space between our atoms indicates as much. If all that space were to be collapsed, we would become the size of about a single grain of rice as a human body. We want space in order for things to work cohesively in this beautiful illusion that is life. We want space until we don't want space anymore. We want that comfort zone between having space and being drawn in. We don't want to be pulled in any direction. We want balance between giving and receiving. And the only way we can truly be in balance is through this surrender to a greater force that knows how to align us up right in the middle to where the light is beaming from all that resistance that's coming from the polar opposites. You have to become the star child of your existence by leaving the victimized state of being as a placenta. The only way you can go down the umbilical cord is to surrender to it. It is a portal of light that we are looking at. Believe it or not, it feeds every bit of life on this planet. That same life we consume, thus we are consuming the light. So you can see yourself at a distance from the source, or you can see yourself as the source. The difference between those two determines your fate. That's it. It's not a matter of if or when. It simply already exists. The system itself already exists. Time is not a factor in its existence. You just have to decide where you want to be. Plenty of choices. You want to be the heart of this star child? You can be like Elon Musk. He's in the heart of everything. He understands he's going to be distributing a lot of goods and services. He understands he has to filter out a lot of stuff and make it more efficient. He understands he has to pump all the time and not rest. At the same time, he's right next to the source, so he gets access to a lot of those resources when they're unrefined and pure. He gets them. For the sacrifice of constantly serving without any respite, can't skip a beat, have to be consistent as the sun. There are others who want to be, as I said before, in the colon. So they go there, and they end up being bathed in the waste of excrement every day. You may be the bile of bile within the gut, also with neurons, and you may take pride in the fact that nothing can bring you down, nothing can burn you, and yet you are contained by a stomach lining. And that stomach lining is constantly looking back at you saying, we handle all this and we get to see the other side too. Till you take an aspirin or acetaminophen, and then that lining dies. That's the thing in our body. Lots of sacrifice going on. Others want to be the platelets of our body, be part of the bloodstream, only move in one direction the entire time. That direction's determined by a greater source or of power that's pushing you. It's a stream itself. And you come in without any nucleus of your own. You have to drop that off. So you drop off your nucleus in order to create more space as a raft that is filled with glucose. That glucose is highly feminine. You also have to be filled with a lot of oxygen. That's highly masculine. So you have the unity of masculine and feminine, but you don't have the means to manage it because you don't have a nucleus anymore. And you're only moving in one direction. And while you're moving, as a platelet, all that oxygen and all that glucose gets distributed to the places that are asking for it. Starts off real nice. You get to be the fat of the land for a little bit. You get to experience God for a little bit with that nucleus, but that drops off, and before you know it, all of your oxygen and all of your glucose has been given off like a placenta would to other regions. Next thing you know, you find yourself accumulating in the form of waste in the lower respiratory system, the lungs. That is a battle going on between crows and a red-tailed hawk. 2 crows and a red-tailed hawk in a skirmish. Yep, they're skirmishing. California Kid the Valley says, beautiful tree. I wish I could give one a hug. Let's do it. There's just a lot of blackberry bushes here first, though. So I'm going to go to a place where there aren't so many blackberry bushes, because they're prickers. While the fighting happens above us, I mean, you could be a platelet that ends up at the lower respiratory system, stripped of all that you ever had and believed yourself to be. And then suddenly, someone comes in out of nowhere. Some voice from the heavens takes in a deep breath. Oxygen gets transported in by nitrogen. Starts to bind and transform in a catalytic conversion. Next thing you know, you wake up in the morning, the platelet dream is over, and you see yourself yet again as a cell with a nucleus in the center of the marrow of the bones of the universe. And on you go again, dropping off your nucleus, carrying out all this glucose and oxygen, making your way to the end, stripped away of all that ever was. That is the life of a platelet until you're reborn again. And that's the thing, isn't it? With most of these cells, if not all of them, even neurons are believed to regenerate now. If you're in peak experience and your pineal gland is decalcified, you're practicing long, deep breathing and you're using the imagination beautifully, you can actually regenerate areas of mind. Those dead, laden DNA proteins somehow awaken. But you could be a platelet, brought to life again. You could be part of the mitochondria in your body, the power plants and furnaces that create the currency of life. You could be working directly for the Federal Reserve System itself, printing money all day. But you never really get to use it. Yeah, you're printing it, you're distributing it, but you're not using it so much. Because all of this printing of money has to go to the skipper. So when you become the skipper, you know, the real king or queen of the kingdom of life that is your body, start to pay attention to your kingdom, start to love it, start to be grateful for it, well, then you can really start spending that currency on things that you love. Because for most individuals, we are spending adenosine triphosphate, which is the currency of life known as ATP. We are spending it on thinking about things that either happened in the past and are already done, or things that will never happen in the future in speculation, i.e. the future. We spend most of our currency entertaining these fictitious elements of life. We construct them, we entertain them, and we feel them, thus spending currency the entire time on such things. So, it's a big, intricate system with a lot of diversity. Your human body has a number of compartments, all doing different things. They migrated through an infinite intelligence to be part of those different things in a unique way. But you, as the first cell, the blueprint of life, the zygote that gave the instructions for every cell to be created in your body, you are the skipper. You are the captain. You are the king or the queen of your life experience. Not the neurons, not the ones in the heart. They're very strong and they're very capable, but they are not the skipper. Just as no one outside of you is the skipper of your life, it's the same through correspondence. As above, so below. As without, so within. As within, so without. So no, as much as Elon works as a neuron of the heart, he is not the skipper of your vessel. Nor is President Trump the skipper of your vessel. A lot of beautiful maintenance being done, a lot of efficiency carried out, a lot of personal training and recovery of goods and services, and expansion within. But None of this has any say over when you move, when you breathe, when you eat, when you sleep, when you experience things. It has no say when you go to the imagination. Tyler, thank you for sending over that manifesting. Thank you for that gift. Paranormal Hunters, Oregon. Thanks for following. Veggie, thanks for sharing. Sissy says, love is your currency. Yes, it is. Love is consciousness, right? This cut, do I need to yell at it and tell it needs to move forward in its life? It needs to figure out a way. It needs to make more money. It needs to get its ass in gear? No, it just heals itself. In fact, the less that I'm scratching at it, yelling at it, disciplining it, trying to force it to heal, the better off it is. Emmy says, thank you. California Kid the Valley says, exactly what I'm trying to do. Thank you. Yeah, you're doing it. That's why you're here. Tyler wants the cake exercise. Sure, Tyler. California Kid, that was the closest I could give to a hug. Okay, everyone, let's do a few minutes of meditation. As I'm walking, you can receive the ASMR from it, and you can bring the volume to a comfortable position to where the sound is good. Before then, I just want to acknowledge TH77. Thank you for following. Okay. The exercise is as such. Close your eyes if you can. If you can't, that's okay. Start to come into awareness of your breath, your breathing. The way you do this is you say in your mind, every time you breathe in, I am breathing in. And every time you breathe out, you say in your mind, I am breathing out. Okay? That is awareness of your breath. So start to come into that. Ooh, we got a little yellow jasper here. I just want to show this to you. Yeah, I just want to show this to you. This is yellow jasper or quartz. I can't really tell. It might be a combination of the two. Cool. There's also a green one in there, but it's probably just algae. Start to come in contact with your breath, awareness of it. Every time you breathe in, say to yourself, I'm breathing in. Every time you breathe out, say in your mind, I'm breathing out. You don't have to say anything physically, okay? I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. California Kid says, thank you for the energy. You're more than welcome. That's what I'm here for. So once you get used to this breath, don't stress. Breathe however you need to. The idea is you are aware when you're breathing in, and you are aware when you're breathing out. You're witnessing it, okay? You're not defining it. You're not labeling it as good or bad breath, deep or shallow. You're just witnessing it and giving the mind the task to echo back to you what you're doing. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Just as I'm taking steps. No different. Thanks, Jason, for the gift of a heart meeting. Okay, let's add a component to this practice. Next thing you're going to do, witness before you on a small stand or large, big table, whatever it is, doesn't have to matter much. It's just big enough to hold a nice, beautiful birthday cake. Since this is the birth of your reclamation of self, I want you to imagine this cake laden with candles, lit and waving in the wind, but not going out. Only until you breathe out and blow them out do they go out. Go ahead and do that now. Just breathe. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. So the cake becomes a reset button for your physical body. That's the secret. It resets your nervous system. It's like a light switch. And you're shutting off fight or flight, and you're turning on receptivity to knowledge, peace, and prosperity, healing. And the concentration on the cake gives you a focus, just as monitoring your breath does. This becomes something physical that you can imagine, because we've all blown out candles of birthday cakes. At least most of us. Now's your chance. Anytime you need. So take this time to return to the cake anytime you need. And what you can do, just like you went from going to monitor your breath, which you can always return to, just as you can always return to blowing out the candles, start to add things that you desire. There are no limitations in the mind of God, your imagination, so you can make it anything. Make it your perfect wish-fulfilled relationship. The perfect date. The perfect meal. Its flavors and aromas. What it feels like to live from the end on your perfect estate, with everything in order, with perfect mobility and health. Whatever it was that once seemed impossible, that was spoken to you in such a way, to where you were led to believe it. Offer yourself an escape from that by seeing something totally different, without any restriction or limitation. You use the imagination in truth. Just as you did use this life principle to grow from a single cell into trillions. You're just using it for a little fun in the sun. Go on vacation from pain. And as you're going on vacation from that, know that the job is done. Just as the job is done in the body, if you were to be cut in some way, you simply rest, relax, and receive, and the infinite intelligence handles the rest. The managing of your life situations in the form of suffering and pain is no different. For it all comes from a source of consciousness that already knows what you desire, because it is the source of your desire and the source of your aliveness. So you don't have to have a plan anymore. You don't have to give an excuse to people as to what you're doing to improve your life, nor explain or justify why you are resting, relaxing, and receiving on this day. Nor explain to people why you're pushing so hard. It may be your desire to push hard. It may be the game you want to play. You don't have to explain. Just go there. Just go there and be. Do that now. And anytime you need a reset, return to the cake. And return to monitoring your breath and observing the aliveness around you. All of this will give you presence, which puts you back into the womb of creation, to where you are unified with a higher faculty that manages all reparations. Go there now. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Know that you are loved every time you step into your kingdom like that. Be received as the king or queen of your domain. Okay. No more talking on my end. I promised. See you in a bit. Hello, chickadee. Spade says, I hugged my tree yesterday. Awesome. Chantel, thanks for following. Tyler, thanks for the heart buff. Grace, thanks for following. Zach Pocket, you too. Sarah Lynn Love, thanks for following. Yes, California Kid to review. Monitoring your breath and giving your breath a job is the first step to presence. And what it does is it invites you to start to imagine things in the now, rather than using the imagination for the creation of time and its entertainment. Monitoring I am breathing in and breathing out is a present-based activity. As close as you can get to it. Then, the introduction of a birthday cake and blowing out the candles that are lit starts to exercise the instrument. It's like tuning in. Then you can add whatever you want to it, but it's a good stepping stone. Speaking of stepping stones, you can also step down a staircase. Count the steps. I do 33 for every vertebrae in the body. Step down them. When you come to the base, imagine there being a doorway. Step through the doorway and start building your kingdom. As you're walking into it, be anointed. Be adorned with the crown and all the great immense power that comes with it. Make it a big receiving. Get lost in it. And be sure not to share it with anyone, lest you want it to be laughed at, mocked, belittled. This was what Jesus of Nazareth discovered when asked if he was a Messiah or a king. Before he was given time to explain that this kingdom was not of this world, that it was within, it was too late at that point. He was seen as a threat. So, this is why John the Apostle explains to pray to the Lord in secret. Learn this the hard way. It might just get you crucified. You start to mention to people that you have things that don't appear before you as real, that do not add up or line up. Most people take everything that is considered real at face value. They have to feel it, they have to touch it, before they can believe it. Because things, for the majority of people, are God. Something outside of oneself. That's God for most people. God is at a distance, and God is a thing. Therefore, you must revere this thing. You must do this indoctrination of activities, or you are to be condemned. And that kingdom of heaven that is promised by this deity outside of yourself is not of this world too. It's not until you die that you step into that kingdom, says the Lord of death. But the Lord of life says, the kingdom of heaven is within you. You have no distance from it. You can witness it now. It's called the imagination. You can step into it and be anything and anyone you want. And you can continue to use it erroneously for the creation of time and its entertainment. Either way, the power is yours. It's no one else's. Certainly doesn't belong to some God outside of you. That would be a false prophet. Anything that is subjected to you outside of you is subject to the same rules as anything else that is manifest. It must have a beginning, middle, and end. So if you believe God to be that which is outside of you with a beginning, middle, and end, you have decided that God is mutable, impermanent, ephemeral, and better than you, richer than you, greater than you, more powerful than you. And you must adhere to that in order to be saved is the biggest lump of shit that has ever been dealt to humanity. by erroneous thinking humans. And it's the reason why Jesus of Nazareth said to the very same people back in the day, whether they were Pharisees or perfectorates or Caesar himself, that they know not what they do. They have no idea what they're doing. They have everything right now, yet they are pretending that in some way I'm taking it from them by telling them where their power is, that they don't have to go searching for it anymore. They don't have to be a slave for it anymore. It's right within them. And they are it. That got him crucified. That got him killed. He got killed for it so that you wouldn't forget. And if I look around anymore, I don't think I could be any further reminded of how much we've forgotten the truth of our existence as humans. Tyler, thank you for the superpower. User 369-8699-10747, thanks for following. Fatima says, yes, this truth. It's your truth in being. Al says, peace out, I gotta go. Thank you for your wisdom. Wish I could stay longer. Al, thank you for being here. If you're not here any longer, God bless you. You'll see this recording on YouTube. I think we caught up on everyone. I'm really grateful for all the follows coming through today. So that's what got Jesus of Nazareth crucified. It should be plain as day. He was telling everyone that he was a king. And so everyone believed him to be the king of the Jews. That's what he was claimed to be by the Pharisees, so that he could be used as a target for separation between certain factions of people, create conflict, which weakens the population and becomes more controllable. If you think that's not happening now, I'd love to see the rock that you're living under. It's exactly the way things are today. People at odds with each other, believing that God is outside of them, something they have to look for outside of themselves. They're victims because of this situation of life that's impossible to deal with. And by far, we will never, ever agree that we are the creators of this mess. Because why would God be so evil so as to project all these things upon us in this life? I thought God is benign and expansive and healing, right? Yes. God is benign, expansive, and healing. God heals every cut of your body, recycles your cells, takes the food that you dump into your body like a garbage dump and makes use of it, and eliminates that which doesn't have any use. Keeps recycling your cells, never asks for a moment for recognition, and has been there with you pumping your blood as your heart for your entire life, not once asking for recognition. That's the selflessness that is God. You also have access to its imagination to become what you think about. You are loved that much. You can shit on God all day, claim that it's not a part of you, that it's outside of you, and still it keeps you alive so you can create that story. It loves you that much. And if you say that to people and you claim that that is your truth, you are crucified for it, because people are that afraid of no longer having slaves as humans to manage in a form of trespassing and the ultimate form of evil. Those who are aware they become what they think about and use that power for the enslavement of humanity are the worst of the worst scum on this planet. And they're now coming into the light to realize they no longer have control over people in that way. It's just not happening anymore. Same thing happened with the splitting of the temple after the crucifixion of Christ, but this time it's not going to be the crucifying of any human being. It's going to be the awakening of droves, countries of people coming into awareness of their existence in truth. And that's going to split the temple. Nothing else. It already has. We're experiencing a cellular mitosis right now. If you don't see it, pay attention. Come to the side of the star child. It's right before you. It's within you. It's nowhere else. Sarah Lynn Love says, I needed this reminder. Thanks for all that love there. Those 3 loves. I wish I could do it with the other hand. Maybe God will give me a third. Tyler sent a Let 'em Cook, which I love and appreciate. Caveman says, and so it was recorded, indeed. Love you too, user 36986991077. Thank you, Tyler, for saying very articulate and resonant. We are tuned into a radio station. I, as an identity, William, am not the creator of these words. I am channeling them as a form of instrument for the source, just like a guitar would be the instrument for a song that is written. That song comes from a superior intelligence. I am acting as an instrument. Just as you would act as an instrument when you're in your flow, whatever it is, the thing that you love and feel your purpose in. For me, it's oration. For other people, it could be totally different. But you know when it's good because it feels good. And when it feels good, you know it's coming from source. Blessings to all of you. I'm glad that it resonates. Lucas says, if you could explain it, that would be helpful. Let's see what it was, Lucas. Thanks for the heart me. Expand on this for me, Lucas, and I'll tell you more. Happily. We got some time. It's nice and warm today anyway. And it's a beautiful Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday. I brought myself a nice onyx today with some basalt. Feels really great. Just keeping that in hand. Oh, Lucas asks, I sent a message on what kava was. Okay, so Lucas is asking about a product that I promote that's called Kava Haven. I haven't read the question coming from Lucas, nor will I be able to jump out of this without the recording being disrupted, so I won't be doing that. But I'll tell you about kava. Sure, it's a medicine. It comes from a plant. It's a root medicine that comes from the Pacific Islands, and it's been around for 3,000 years. The principal element in this root that is kava is what gives you your psychological change, or change in consciousness is how I refer to it. And it's called kavalic tones. Hence the name kava comes from kavalic tones. And so if you look into my profile, you'll see there is a video that's the one that has the most views because there's the most controversy behind this. A lot of people are saying that it causes issues with your liver and your kidneys. I've heard everything across the board with how it's bad. And then I've heard everything across the board with how it's good. I personally drink Kava Haven probably twice a week. Maybe sometimes not once a week, but not at all. But I do sometimes drink it twice. And so I enjoy it for the change of consciousness. I'll come out here into the woods and I'll do my walks. And it usually cooks differently. That's the way I can say it. It's kind of like, I don't know, you have a mix from a song and you have two different mixes. One has a deeper bass, a better guitar solo. The other one's more smooth and synthwave. It gives you a change of consciousness. The idea is you come into it seeking out that change of consciousness because you want to have a new experience that will be facilitated by something outside of yourself. Not the cause, but facilitated, which means it nudges you in the direction of your good. I find that it does that for me. Other people don't. A lot of people will come in talking about their problems right off the bat, and I'll say, okay, I know where their narrative is. It's in sickness. And the sickness narrative is a beautifully powerful narrative to have because you can use it in a number of ways. One, you're a victim of something that you can't control, so that allows you to get attention for it. And that attention gives you a change of consciousness through endorphins or dopamine. It's really agonists. They're addicting. They work with the GABA B receptors, which are addicting. But in the same way, people seek out that rush, that excitement that comes from explaining to people a story that makes you feel like you're restricted. So it becomes part of a habit and then a personality. I'm a victim. This is the thing I have. It causes me problems. I can't walk this way because of it. So I know you're asking me to breathe this way, but I have problems with my breathing. And I wish you would be a bit more sensitive about this with my problem that I have that will never go away. Because it's a narrative, you know? So a lot of people will come in and talk about kava as the cause of their problems or that it's exacerbated in some way the issues of their life. And it's totally a misuse of their own divine power as far as I'm concerned, but people are totally welcome to do it. Just as I'm welcome to use the divine power for healing, people are welcome in their freedom as embodiments of God to use it for their own demise. This goes for anything. It goes for the food that you eat, goes for the substances that you ingest or not, goes for fasting. It goes from, gluttony, any of the 7 sins, all of the things that would be beneficial for you. Everyone is making decisions as to how they want to live their life and play out this game. I'm in no position to have any say over that because that's called trespassing. So what I tell people is my experience with kava and kavalik tones has been blissful. I've never had a single contraindication from it. I haven't felt any nausea. I haven't lost any sleep. I haven't felt any depression, nor any sort of addictive backlash from it. No withdrawals, nothing but positivity, with the exception of one product. There's one product that I've reviewed that's not Kava Haven. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to talk poorly about companies. But there was one company that has a seltzer that I tried that gave me violent diarrhea every time I tried it. And I tried it 4 times. And every time it was a matter of 15 minutes to a half an hour to where I was blowing out diarrhea as a result. And people were talking about how there was lead in it and problems. And so I reviewed it as such. This gave me diarrhea. And then I tried another one that was a seltzer that had kavalik tones in it. It was totally fine. So I'm just honest. I tell you about my experience, and I know that's what you want. I'm glad that you came here, and I'm praying that this answers your question about kava and kavalik tones. It's been a medicine for 3,000 years. It offers a blissful state of consciousness. It comes in a 750 milliliter bottle from Kava Haven, and it is $53, and people say that's really expensive. It's a luxurious departure from your current state of consciousness, and people are going to pay for that, whether they're buying an Apple computer, whether you're buying a high-end video card, whether you're going to your local dispensary and getting whatever it is that costs way more. For me, it's totally the right decision because it's non-alcoholic, doesn't have the withdrawal symptoms of alcohol, nor the addictive qualities of alcohol. It works on the GABA A receptors, which have to do with non-addicting anxiolytic reduction of anxiety. That's why I promote it as much as I do, and it's why it sells as much as it does. It's the number one product that I promote that in sale, and it sells about 90% of the things that I sell are kava, because people know it works. If it didn't work, they wouldn't buy it. So that's that. And I pray that you have a wonderful experience with it. Mix it with some cold seltzer. Maybe have it with some condensed milk if you're a sweet tooth, if you want something sweet. I've heard people suggest having it with V8 tomato juice, and all across the board, people are happy with it. Madre Cass asks, what are you talking about? I'm talking about Kava Haven or kavalik tones that come from the kava root. And so the one video that I have that is viral, it's like close to 900,000 views or whatever. That video talks all about this product, and if you want one, you'll see, if it's in stock, you'll see an orange cart where you can click on it and you can get one. You have to be 18 or older, I think, to get one. It's non-alcoholic, and it's called Kava Haven. So Margie asks, does it give you a head change? I'm not sure what that means, but I can tell you it gives me a change in consciousness. And when I refer to consciousness, I'm referring to life experience. So in the same way that fasting can give me a change in consciousness, you can also get a change of consciousness from eating after fasting for a while. And kavalik tones, for me, work on my GABA A receptors, not the GABA B, the GABA A, which are anxiolytic, anti-stress, anti-anxiety, relaxing. And at the same time, I feel sharp, like I'm ready to deliver a nice dialogue, and I have no fear of doing so. It's one take, it's easy. It's flow. It puts you into flow pretty quickly. And it's something that you develop a sensitivity to rather than a tolerance, which is really great, which means you need less over time. And eventually, for me, it's like what I said to people. I said, sometimes I have it twice a week, sometimes not at all, sometimes only once. It's because I don't feel the dependency. I don't feel the necessity to have it. But if I'm feeling like, I might want to have a writing session with some kavalik tones in my system right now, or I might want to walk in the woods and talk to people while doing that and just see how it feels. And it always feels great. Always feels great. Fatima says, just purchased. Thank you so much for your faith in me, and I pray that it works really well for you, and I would love to hear your feedback. Okay, thank you, Fatima. It is on my page, Margie. It's the first video in my profile that has like close to 900,000 views. It's got a few thousand likes, so you can check it out. There's tons of commentary of people talking about it. It's highly controversial in the commentary, and it's pretty fired up. Saying here I have low battery, so we're going to keep going. 20%, we're good though. we'll get to this. Tyler asks, can you elaborate on dimensions higher than 6D? Sure. We'll get into this, Tyler. So when we get into the sixth dimension, we're talking about the hexaract, okay? Hexaract, and I could be wrong because I just asked AI this morning. It is, I believe, it goes like bits. You know how like you have 16 bits, 32 bits, 64 bits, 128 bits, 384 bits, 512 bits, 10, what is the next one? 1024, and on. It's similar to that. It increases in that amount every time. It doubles. And so a hexaract would be something like 256, if I could be wrong, I'm guessing. It could be 256 pentaracts. And a pentaract is 128 tesseracts. See, I could be wrong because a tesseract actually, and it is wrong, because a tesseract is 8 cubes, which are 8 triads. So it would have to be 16 in the next, and then it would have to be 32 in the next, and then 64 in the next, and then 128 in the next, and on we go. But basically, you're just doubling, is my understanding when we come into it. That's what I was told. So all we're talking about are complex geometric patterns, very complex geometric patterns that are based in triangles. All right? So triangle is the main form when it gets to the higher dimensions. And we're looking at extremely complex geometric figures based in very complex mathematics. And eventually when you get to the point where you're at the 11th dimension, this is when AI was talking to me as we've reached the infinite. And when you get to 12, it is total unity consciousness. 12th dimension is everything in unity. And then I asked, okay, what comes after the 12th dimension? And the AI explained it, it's like a starting over again. What's really interesting about that is that we have 12 notes in the scale of music. Since we are just frequency, I believe that there is a distinct tie between all 12 dimensions and the 12 musical notes of music creation. I believe there's a direct link in some way. That was the big thing that came to me today. Also the 12 astrological signs, 12 months of the year. There's a lot of things we can talk about with it, but there are 12 dimensions according to AI. And beyond the 6th, we're simply looking at manifest reality in a very complex form of mathematics and polarity, all the concepts of the Kybalion working in more complex patterns. The best way to look at this is to look into something called cymatics, C-Y-M-A-T-I-C-S. Look into cymatics and how geometrical patterns form into more complex forms or figures. The higher the frequency is introduced to a metal plate where there is particles of sand, you'll see the sand start to vibrate, and when you reach a certain unity of frequency that falls into a specific scale, it organizes itself into a visible fractal form. And so it shows how everything is vibration and how forms happen through frequency. It's really beautiful. It's a wonderful phenomena that you can witness physically happen. It's called cymatics. This is just happening to the physical body through 3 dimensions, and we're seeing it in a 2-dimensional plate, which gives us a basic blueprint of things, but it's not the entirety. That's why I can't tell you what a tesseract looks like, nor tell you what something looks like on a 6th dimensional scale, because it goes so far above and beyond what we're capable of experiencing in 3 dimensions, but we're still a part of it. Okay? But the best place to jump in would be cymatics. You can tell me what you think of that. Tyler says, thank you for answering. Spot on. You're welcome, Tyler. Of course. I always do my best to give you a comprehensive answer. We're only seeing a part of this. And so this is why I think when you have a huge dump of dimethyltryptamine, either through ayahuasca or other means, the psychedelic experience or the entheogenic experience that humans have, seems to be overwhelmingly fractal, which I believe is opening up the aperture a bit further to see some of these complex geometric patterns unfolding through God's manifold expression. I think they're just too vibrant for people to live with, so we dial it into this. This is us having a conscious experience that is manageable. Beyond this, it becomes way too overwhelmingly fractal. But we could be moving into that state of being through an upgrade in our dimethyltryptamine. You know, I'm certainly not as scared or afraid of a entheogenic experience now, knowing that my consciousness is my truth and I don't die. I think overcoming the fear of death gives you access to this higher form of perception. I think it's a big part of it. So, understanding that your consciousness more than your identity opens up a lot of doors to higher realms of being. Otherwise, it's a huge anchor. It keeps you tethered here in fear, victimized by external circumstances. And it's intentional. It's intentional for us to gestate in the womb of creation and come to being. It's a beautiful game. All right, the birds are here. Hello, birds. Let's crumble up some of this for our friends. And we'll answer any final questions before the battery runs out. Now would be a good time to voice any questions that you may have before we conclude for the day. Okay. Let's do this now. She's Bulletproof says, I'll get to it second. Do you think when we go through major shifts, we can experience strong emotions? Sure. Yeah, it's a big part of it. We're beings of feeling. So feelings will always be a central component of all life change. And every single experience that we have with feeling has a beginning, middle, and end. So it has a timeline. So feelings and timelines come hand in hand. You hear that little squeaker? That is our nuthatch. I'm going to back up so our birds can have some food. Come on, guys. Hey, hello, guys. Hello, Squeaky. Hey, Squeaky nuthatch. Hello, chickadee. Hello, Junko. Junko just got a big piece. Hello, chickadee. How are ya? We got 3 chickadees. Hello, guys. There you go. There's the chickadee. There you go. Hello, friend. The chickadees always come by and listen just to say hello. They show their gratitude first, and then they grab food. But they're just like this every time. They just show happiness before they grab food. They're so unique. There's another one. He got scared away by another chickadee. Hello, chickadee. Yes, you're my friend. He's going choo-choo. Choo-choo. Hello, chickadee. Hello, love. Hello, my little love. You're such a friend. You're a lovely spiritual friend. The heartbeat of the chickadee is one of the fastest, so they perceive things very slowly, and they're also the most friendly and curious. Fatima says, hello, birdie. So you notice all the sound? I'm going to be quiet so you can hear all the sound change now. Their appearance is unbelievably shifting. Fatima says, hi, birdies. Sarah Lynn says, the birds have always brought me so much peace. I'm glad. Fatima says, fun fact, Birds are high frequency with their chirps in open bloom, all flowers in early sunrise. Wow. Very cool. Oh, we have the nuthatch is here. He's squeaking. He wants to come over and get some food. Hey guys, come on over. All right. That's the squeaker. You hear that little squeaker? That's the nuthatch. They can run down trees. They look a lot like black-capped chickadees, but they have longer bodies and they're more low profile to the ground. Rarely will grab food that way unless they're really hungry. And this little squeaker wants to grab food. He's been squeaking the whole time. The lovely whistle in the distance, I believe that to be a cardinal. I could be wrong. And the one that goes, huh, huh, that is a downy woodpecker. Okay, guys, I'm going to back up now. I see the nuthatch wants that food. There are two nuthatches, actually. Two nuthatches, very hungry. They look like little black-capped chickadees, and what they do is they come along with the chickadee. They follow suit, and they want to come over and eat. So we'll see if one comes over. There's one. It's on the branch there. That's a nuthatch. See how he jumps around like that? They can run up and down trees, and they're so freaking cute. Now he's getting some food. There he goes. There he goes. That little squeak noise. Oh, here comes walkers. That little squeak noise is... It could be either the junco, and the tufted titmice usually don't make any sound unless they're fighting. Then they'll make noise if they're fighting. All right, we got a lot of folks coming. I don't want to film them without their consent. So people, we're going to end this because the battery's going to run out anyway. You'll see 2 videos going up today, okay? 2 videos. One from yesterday and today. And I have all of the chat, so you'll be able to see your contributions. Tyler says, thank you for all your daily dedication. You're more than welcome. I'm very grateful to all of you. Caitlin, thanks for following. And I'm very just happy. So enjoy your evenings, afternoons, mornings, wherever you are around the world. Sis1 says, thank you. I've enjoyed you. Thank you. Everyone be well. Give a follow if you haven't already. That way you can see me when I'm live. And please do follow on YouTube if you check out the videos, because it's going to help me get to the point of monetization. We're just about at 1,000 followers. Aside from that, there are no expectations. Just know that I love you, and I'm thinking of you all, and you all are just as fulfilling for me as perhaps I may be for you. Know that you're filling a wonderful space in my heart every day. That's part of the reason why I do this with so much joy. Kathea, thank you for following, and I love you all. God bless you. Be well, embodiments of God. Know that your burden is easy and light, so long as you step into the imagination and treat yourself with your own kingdom. Treat yourself to something good, okay? I love you all. See you tomorrow. Choo, choo, choo. Juncos are saying, hey, feed me. All right.